I'm Mike Goldstein with Homeschooling Journeys. My guests today are from Surf, Skate, Science. We are so glad to have them. They are Uli and Toni. And could you start by telling us, paint a picture for us, a kid who shows up for one of your surf classes, for example, what happens? What do they experience?
Well, our classes are designed to be like a hands-on project-based learning STEM or STEAM class, which adds the A for art. And we do about a 45-minute lab, and that's at the beach or at the skate park. We're a total mobile program. So we set up at the skate park in a pavilion or at the beach in a pavilion or under a tent. They do a science experiment and then they go in the water with Yuli and they get to have fun on a surfboard. And so if we're teaching physics, they take that physics lesson to the ocean, or if we're talking about marine biology or chemistry, they get to learn a little more while they're in the water having fun surfing. Same thing happens at the skate park. So maybe we're talking about architecture and then he'll take them to the park, skate with them, but he also adds in the lesson talking about how ramps are designed and how skate parks are designed.
So I had this thrill as I was reading your website because 25 years ago, I created a charter school. And in our application, I described lots of examples of learning like what you just described. Where we failed, we were not able to consistently offer these types of opportunities in our school because the specialization it takes to figure out, how do I connect the teaching of Newton's laws and the little details like, where are we allowed to be on the beach at this time and what's appropriate for an 11-year-old versus a 15-year-old. You've been solving that for years and making it happen. Can you share with us, when a parent first reaches out to you and says, I'm interested, what is the pull for them? And what are their concerns that make them unsure of whether this might be the right fit for their kid?
I think with Surf Skate Science, a parent will reach out to us. Mostly it's by word of mouth. It wasn't something we intended to start. We have a our youngest son was very active. Our neighbors, their youngest was the same way. They were both homeschooled. And we both were like, what are we going to do with these kids? And we needed them to focus on school, but the only thing they wanted to do was skateboard or jump on trampolines and all that stuff. So at the same time, we're dealing with a tragic school shooting in our area, and kids just needed something to do. The school was shut down. So we just started meeting at the beach or at the skate park. And me being a nerd about science and learning, how can we incorporate school with that? And I was like, what if we did science at the skate park or science at the beach? So as far as how parents find out, it's pretty much just been word of mouth. We do post on some Facebook forums for homeschoolers. We've gone to a couple homeschool conferences, but usually those happen after we're already full. So it's more just to be present and to meet other people. Um, and then so they contact us, they get registered for our program. We are a co-op, so we share the expenses. So we'll create a budget for the semester, divide it by the number of kids in class, and that's around what our fee is. And then they come to class and they just enjoy learning with us. And pretty much how I figure out the curriculum, we do something different every semester, is I just dream of what I would have wanted to do in school, and what people used to tell me no to at the school we worked at. And I'm like, I can do anything I want. This is our program. So we go in and we create a curriculum. So last semester we talked about physiology. This semester we're talking about the future, the engineering of the future and how that's going to look. And so we get to do something different every term, which is a lot of fun. And I get to just imagine and dream and come up with lessons. So it's been a lot of fun.
Uli and Toni, you've got a partnership. Toni, you're dreaming up the lessons. Uli, are you figuring out how to implement the lessons?
I'm a product of Like, I ran a skate park for many years. I was a skateboarder growing up, and I was that kid in class that fell through the cracks, man. I mean, teachers didn't know how to deal with me, because I didn't test well. It's even hard for me to be in this podcast right now, but I've learned to, struggle through it in great ways. But um, I'm a skater, surfer, and I apply what I learn with the lessons and to apply it with the students. So yeah, they go for 45 minutes, and they go to their science lab, and whatever they learn, I'm already in the beach or the skate park, and I'm going to apply that. I mean, you said you mentioned Isaac Newton. I run a skate camp in the summer, and I love having kids that have nothing to do with skateboarding. Like, they're not skaters. They just come in, and I introduce them to this lifestyle. And one of the things I love to do is teach them the basics, but also we were talking about skateboarding and how it's forward motion. It's all about Isaac Newton's, and the laws of motion and all that. And I just love applying that, So on Monday, I take about 20 kids with me, and we go to the skate parks, and they have no idea to get on a board. But I have other kids that are really good skaters. So I spend time with them and get them by Wednesday. They're starting to move a little, right?
Yep.
And I'm always talking to them about science, the science of skateboarding, the science of a skate park and all of that. So I do that religiously, and it's because when I ran a skate park and we moved over to Texas, we didn't know what we were going to do with our kids for school, because school was so different. And we started educating, and Tony was very hands on. And of course, skateboarding, surfing, not so much in Texas, but skateboarding was on the forefront of what we were doing to educate our kids. Yeah.
And Yuli, you use the word lifestyle, and it makes me think at the same time you're educating kids about the science. For example, one thing I notice with my daughter learning karate is it's a husband and wife teacher team there. There's a lot of values there's transmitting, through martial arts. And I wondered if that's also true through surf and skate. Are there key ideas or sort of values you're able to discuss with kids as they struggle to learn the basics of proper movement?
Well, absolutely, because it's all about trust and faith. And, when you drop in a ramp, a 4-foot ramp, and you got your board up against the coping, and you're about to take that first step. I mean, it's gnarly, it's scary, and it's not going to happen the first time. And if I'm not there holding your hands, uh, your injuries might be severe. I mean, it is dangerous. Skateboarding, can when you fall, can hurt. But I teach them. I call it the insurance plan, right? Tell them to put on your pads, put your helmet on. Your helmet got to protect that melon, that's what your brain, and I talk to them about that. I tell them the importance of that. And then we talk about confidence. We talk about perseverance. We talk about embracing your failures, because that's where, for me, that's where like my success came out of, is through my failures and wanting to be successful, because I fail every day. Like, every day I do something, and I'm like, man, I got to do better. I got to do something different. And you learn through it. And that's skateboarding, because if you go and see like a skate video, and you see those guys do those tricks, you have no idea that they spent months doing that same trick at that same spot. And all you're seeing is the success. You're not seeing the slams, unless you wait till the credits, and you'll see all the slams, and you'll
The
just,
outtakes, yeah.
oh my gosh, like, and you got to think, like, why would you put your body through that? It's because the love you have. And I don't know, it's through my passion through it. Tony's more about I think she's more practical in a sense of like education and understanding. I was the kid that I only went to college to please my dad because he wanted, but he had no idea. I had a 1.7 grade point. I couldn't go, but guess what I did? I wrestled and got a scholarship to go to Michigan in Olivet, and I did it because I want him to be happy. And you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
and and now he's really happy with what's going on, right? But I had to fail a lot, and I had to also feel like a failure because I don't learn like that.
And that's like and for me, like that's the scientific process. Like
Yes.
you're looking for a trick. You want to land this trick. So say it's an ollie. You want to learn how to jump up on your skateboard, catch, put a little air underneath your board. How are you going to do that? So you might watch videos, you might ask your friends, then you're going to try it. You're going to listen to their instructions and try it. Most of the time you never succeed the first time. Then you have to try it a little different. Maybe you just need to move your feet a little bit, change the way you're doing things. And it's the scientific process in action, or the engineering process, or the design process. So not only are they learning that and practically learning that by doing it, but they're learning like critical 21st century skills. They're learning social emotional learning. They're doing all kinds of different things. So they're learning about resiliency and confidence, and being able to get up from a fall. And that's what we all have to learn in life to be successful adults. So it's all encompassing. So it's not just that they're learning STEM or STEAM, but they're also learning critical life skills that they're going to need in the future. So it's really, for me, action sports is the perfect vehicle to be able to create successful adults that can succeed in everything. Like, we don't think all these kids are going to become professional skateboarders or professional surfers. Um, but we hope that they learn something from the class that they can take in the future with them. And they're like, hey, if I could drop in on a 4-foot ramp or a 6-foot wave, I can do anything, you know?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't become a pro skater, but I will tell you that I can actually let you know that I was able to build a skate park that produced some pro skaters and some Olympic athletes. I take that as kind of like a medal for me because I wasn't a ramp builder. I wasn't a construction guy. I was a guy that wanted to facilitate. I was so stoked on skateboarding and ramps. And when I was told that I couldn't build this bowl or I couldn't build this ramp, I was like, I'm going to do it. And I did it, and I facilitated and I managed and I brought all these awesome ramp builders. They lived in my house and we built this skate park together. So it's like, if there's passion, there's a way to do it. And through that, I learned so much about math, and I learned about understanding, fractions and understanding that, you got to be on some of the things, you got to take the time to square things up before you build. Because if not, your ramp's going to be all, yeah, it's going to be all jaggedy.
Yeah. And look, two things come to mind just as I hear you both share the story. One is kids respond to authenticity and precision of instruction. So it's like it radiates through our Zoom that you love this stuff. Kids notice that they can tell the difference between someone who really lives it and somebody who's kind of trying to fake it, if you will. The second thing is there's so much difference in the early interaction of a kid on whether, for example, when they first, step on a skateboard, there's the right exact nuance that you've built over years, Yuli, of how to do that, how to help them. And they might fail, but you know exactly how to kind of get them back on the board and so forth. So that's one wonderful thing that Ron Mattis, who's a researcher in Florida who introduced us from Step Up for Kids, one thing he's so excited about with the education savings accounts is there's other people like Uli and Toni out there that have something that they love, that have just sort of the right partnership of that you guys each bring something unique, but as a pair you're so powerful in so many different domains that for a long time have been, if you will, on the sidelines of our education process because it's so formalized. And what he's excited about is hundreds and thousands of people like you getting a chance to offer something extremely special and memorable to so many more kids. I like that vision too. And so that leads to a question of, what's it been like for you with the homeschool families that you serve? Are they able essentially to pay for you because they have this scholarship? Or tell us a little bit about the mechanics of how your nonprofit works and what's different because of the scholarship than if it just didn't exist.
Yeah, I think we're very blessed as homeschool parents ourselves, and living in Florida and being able to have this funding. So so it passed not this past July, but the July before. There were a few kinks along the way, but parents were able last year to get reimbursed mostly for any expenses that they did out of system. So that might be a STEM class like ours, or we have a friend that's a neuroscientist that teaches neuroscience or cooking or whatever it is. We even take kids shark tagging with University of Miami and FIU, and that funding can actually pay for those experiences where kids get to learn hands-on. And so by mid-year, we were able to direct bill, so a parent didn't even have to have money come out of their pocket. And we live in South Florida. It's expensive. So I don't care how much you earn. If you have 5 kids you're homeschooling, it's expensive. Even if our program we try to keep as affordable as possible, no matter what, if you have 5 kids, and the cost of living in South Florida, it's tough. So this extra money is a game changer. And so with our family, our son has some school choice funding, and he's in school for welding, and it's been able to help with his welding supplies and his classes. He's been able to take some courses that he's really interested in as a junior, now senior. And it's definitely allowed more opportunities. And now with direct billing, it offers opportunities to all families, regardless. Where I think last year you had to have the money ahead of time. This year we can just go ahead and bill. So you don't have to put that money out front for the kid, and they can enjoy these different experiences. And the thing I've always loved most about homeschooling is instead of sitting, 6 to 8 hours in a schoolroom, usually studying towards achieving well in a test, my kids always got to explore what they were passionate about. And so that gave them opportunities to see what they liked, they didn't like. And then my 2 older ones went on to college because that's what they wanted to do, and they succeeded and did something they loved because they were able to explore that before they got there. Where I know when I was in college, most of my friends changed their majors their first year. My kids excelled, straight A's, love what they're doing. And then my youngest wants to go the trades route, very happy. But they were all able to try different things before they got there. And I think that makes a more successful adult. If you're doing something you love and are passionate about, you're going to do well at it. And so I think that that's what all this gives an opportunity to do. You can try all these different things, like Ron calls them a la carte learning experiences. So say you're interested in culinary arts, we have a teacher that does that here in South Florida. Or say you want to be a doctor, we have somebody that you can work with that is a neuroscientist that makes it simple for an elementary student to learn. So there's so many options, and we're just super blessed to live down here. Families who are homeschooling are just super fortunate to have that available.
For on my side, I can say, because I think this is the first year we did for my summer program. So surf skate science we do the normal class, and then in the summer I run a program that is like a camp, but with all our surf skate science things attached to it. So I take like 20 kids with me instead of hiring uh, other people. What I do is I get the kids, like when they're about 15 years old, they come and help me. So I'm teaching them like leadership skills and being, going with me and stuff. For me, it's allowed some kids that couldn't afford that program, especially, summer camps and all that is so expensive. I hear some people pay like $500 a week to do it, and it's insane. How do you afford that if you want your kid to go through the whole summer? So I seen the ones that went through the whole program, the whole summer, were step up. And it was awesome. And these kids, really felt a sense of community because they began in June and went all the way to August. And it's something significant when you have. I can talk about one, Mila, and she's about 8 years old, and she came to my program, and she has no business skateboarding. I mean, I don't know why she got into it, but I invite that. And by August, she's dropping in 4 foot half pipes, like, and loving it. I mean, you should see this. And I wouldn't have that opportunity to have that time with her if she wasn't had that opportunity for step up, because that's her mom used that step up privilege, which I think is awesome. So that's my side. Like, I wouldn't be able to have those kids. I don't think mom could afford that, you know.
Yeah, and funny, I just a quick thing you sort of said $500. Just so you know, here in Boston last week, I spent $900 for a 1 week camp on my 14-year-old. Prices are crazy all over.
People ask me all the time, how
Yeah,
are you making money? I mean, I have a mom that always tries to give me extra tips because she's like, how do you pay for gas? How do you do
yeah,
this? It's
yeah,
because we are a nonprofit, and
yeah.
because of people like Ron and these people that encourage us and give us the way to do it. We're able to do this type of stuff, you know. Like, I'm like,
And we have this beautiful like ecosystem, like he talks about, of learners down here. So for us, like what we're doing, we rely heavily on those community partnerships. So whether it's working with the University of Miami or the Sea Turtle, Foundation here, or there's all different ways that we're able to keep costs down. But step up is and any just the school choice in general. Step up's just one of the scholarship providers, has been a game changer for families. It really has. We have single moms that wouldn't be able to do this, that are still able to homeschool and work, from home and do this.
so I just want to say this because this is like really neat. And so, like, when we do the camp, usually on a Friday we take them to like this snorkeling sanctuary, and we teach them about all kinds of stuff, you know. And we are still adapting like what we're learning through Surfskate Science with this program. So even Mila being there, you know, she was there from the beginning, and the only students that did that were step up. No other kids can really. So we might have them for 1 week, then they'll do daily drop-ins. But Amanda, Mila had the opportunity to go every week, and she loved it. Barely took a day off. There was a couple days where I was like, "You need to take a day off, like go sleep in," you know. But I'm so proud of her, you know. And I don't know, it wouldn't be possible without a step up, or you know.
Yeah, and so a comment and a question. The comment is, the kind of experience you're describing for Mila, which is probably something, 25 years from now, she's going to think back and remember. Like, you're building like a very powerful memory, right? A lot of kids kind of get through school and they don't have that kind of positive learning memory. Like, their memories are more social, of like friends or enemies, but they're not as much on learning experiences because everything is so vanilla and seat based in typical school. So you're giving her that. That's so powerful. My question is, as a provider, sometimes programs have a lot of red tape or friction, and sometimes they're fairly easy. I wonder how has it been, and this might be, more of a Tony question, I'm not sure, but that's my guess. Like, just to handle the becoming a registered, recipient who's allowed to access these monies, and I'm sure there's portals and maybe there's, checkoffs, who knows what's involved. How hard or easy was it for you to get this engine flowing with the education savings accounts?
So there is an application process. There were a lot of hurdles the first year. I don't think I slept very much, but especially when we have around 400 students. So if you think you're billing for 400 students, and I have to individually bill for each, um, it can be challenging. However, it has gotten nothing but better every year they're as they're training staff, the customer service has gotten better. It's been a lot easier for me to do. So it's definitely it had its challenges. I won't lie, it was tough. um, and the same, I, like I said, I'm a provider but also a parent. So
Yes.
on the parent end, it's been challenging. but and but that also gives me a unique perspective to help families through it. And I think what we're missing, I think everybody would choose to learn a little differently if they knew what they had available. My kids have gone to public school, private school, charter school, and then eventually landed on homeschooling. I remember they were in a great private school. We worked there. They had fabulous teachers, but everybody kept telling us that we should homeschool. And I fought it tooth and nail and said, oh no, I'm never homeschooling. And once we went that route, it was the best decision I ever made for my kids. And so for me, I'm a big advocate of it. It worked really well for my kids. My kids are successful. Almost all of them are successful adults. I have a senior this year. Um, but I think it's the best thing. I mean, how many kids get to learn about marine science while they're tagging a real shark, a 500-pound bull shark in front of them? I mean, you'll never forget that. Or you're learning physics as you're dropping in on a skate ramp, or like, you don't get those experiences. And I hope that we're creating lifelong learners, kids that want to learn forever and enjoy it, instead of
Or,
kids that are just trying to get an A in class or just trying to pass a grade. And then we're also instilling passions and just a love for just our environment, solving problems. How are we going to make society better in the future? There's so many things that if we give the children hope, and whether that's in education or in being able to solve these complicated problems. Kids are anxious about the environment, about government. So we're taking kids to City Hall to talk to their officials about building a skate park. They're learning how to build things, that, and come up with solutions that people have never thought of
I
before. So
have a
those kind
wow
of things are
memory too.
awesome.
I have a
Really
wow
good.
memory too, like what she's saying that, like my brain opens up and because I have all these collective memories because I didn't know, like I ran a skate park in the middle of the desert in Midland, Texas. I had my kids and they were homeschooled. She would go and take them. But I remember one day I was like, it was my turn to kind of like be with them and educate them, and I was like, what am I going to do? And I remember being outside and watching a jet flash by, and I look up and it was one of the Thunderbirds. And I look and I saw it land because the airport was right there. I packed my kids in the car and I go, guys, get in. We're gonna learn about this. And they're like, what are we doing? So we're gonna learn about jets and we're gonna go for it. So they were practicing and they weren't doing a show. They were just practicing. And I got up, asked one of the people, and before I could know it, all the pilots were there. They were like, "Oh, is your homeschool dad? Bring them." And they educated my kids about. And what was really cool, it was the first female pilot. She was a Thunderbird, and she was able to like talk to my kids, and it
Wow.
instilled so much like no limits. I mean, I had a daughter, and she was just blown away by it. And it was just like by having that, okay, we're going to learn about what it takes to be a pilot of the Thunderbirds. And that's what I asked them. I go, what does it take to be a Thunderbird pilot? And they're like, that's a good question. And we were there and they went through the airplanes and the jets and everything. And we got in the car, and I'll never forget it. My youngest says, this is the best class I had, like because he was blown away by it.
Yes.
And I think, who would have known? I don't think many parents know that we were in a classroom, we were learning.
Yeah, so to go back to the question, I think yeah, the red tape, it was tough the first year. I think everybody was working through what's this going to look like, and what are you able to spend this funding on? Are we going to let a homeschool parent buy $800 worth of Legos, with their homeschool funding? And that was tough, and working through what that looks like. But I think that if we just trust parents to make the best decision for their kids and cut out all that red tape, it just makes it a lot easier. And I think it has more than having like one or two people that might abuse it, it's really been a game changer. So for me, it was challenging. It's rough. There's still times where I don't sleep, like the couple weeks before classes as I'm billing and doing stuff. But it's gotten a lot better, and it's worth it for all these families to be able to have that opportunity. And I just see it getting better and better. And I hope more and more states have this opportunity. I think it's just such a great opportunity for families. And I want every kid to love learning. I don't want any kid to hate going back to school this year. I want every kid to be excited to go back to school. And so I think that that's what we're creating, is a place where kids are excited to get up in the morning. I think that's my favorite compliment about our class is when parents say, my kids wake us up in the morning to go to class. And so we can do all the surveys and satisfaction surveys in the world. But when I hear that from a parent, that my kid dragged me out of bed this morning to go to your class, that's the best thing I can hear, as a teacher.
Yeah, I have a friend up here in Boston named Scott Given who had founded and run some public schools, some charter schools, and now has some private schools. And he says, when I was with the publics, the only data that the state cared about was the test score changes in math and English of our students. And he's like, we were really good at that one thing. But I realized after I became a father myself, like, that's just not close to the whole story. Now that he's running private schools, he says, I kind of have an even mix between I want to measure the wow moments for kids,
Mm-hmm.
which the state infrastructure in no state in our country cares about, measures the excitement, and attendance is really a bad proxy for that. It doesn't really capture those kinds of memories. He also, and parents, they care about, traditional achievement as well. So he has a balanced world now. And I think what's possible that many homeschool parents seem to be doing is elevating what our Department of Education has not yet figured out. They might care about it, but since they don't know how to measure it, it just kind of falls away. And all it leaves us is the important, but not the only thing of reading math, science, history, and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. Now, you're obviously hitting both of those things. You're hitting a lot of traditional knowledge, but getting there in a different way. And that's just such an exciting thing to see. So I'm just psyched that you shared some time with us. I hope that some people listening not only get excited about your particular program, and you do have some online programs I should mention, so we'll put your website into the show notes, but also that some other educators get excited that instead of trying to be pretty good at a lot of things, maybe they could follow your example and be awesome at a more specialized thing that really serves as unlocks for kids like Mila who just go there and kind of go bananas with enthusiasm. So thank you so much for joining.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much.